What's good, y'all? It's your boy HB with Final Round. Yes, I'm a boxer that smokes because I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, it's a fight. You either find a way to win or you find a way to fucking lose. And I don't give a fuck what you eat. I don't give a fuck what weight you out. I don't give a fuck what you drink. You know, a fight is a motherfucking fight. You either find a way to win or find a way to lose. You know, all this fucking shit on you gotta have a disciplined diet and all that shit. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It can be important. But to me, it's about your mindset. If you... Like, this is the way I think about it. When I go into a boxing match, I don't look at it as a boxing match. I look at it as a fucking fight for my life, dude. If I'm out on the streets, there ain't gonna be no fucking referees. There ain't gonna be fucking weigh-ins. You know, it's a fight. It's a fucking fight. And either you're gonna win or lose. And it doesn't matter if your opponent's bigger, smaller than you, faster, stronger. You just gotta find a way to win. So, you know, and, you know, if I'm on a fucking street fight, I might be smoking a goddamn cigarette. You know what I'm saying? I might be smoking a cigarette right before it. I might be fucking drunk coming from the bar. You know, I'm not gonna have time to fucking get a sauna suit on, cut weight, and fucking go to weigh-ins and get a referee and fight in a controlled environment. Nah. So, look, smoke up. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get evicted for this shit, but I don't give a damn. It's like drinking coffee. It's a routine for me. But look, we got Poirier versus Mcgregor. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's weird because he has like a French fucking last name, but he's like from the boonies of Florida or some shit like that. Shout out to Florida. I miss you. I'm living in California. Fuck California. It sucks. Y'all need to fix this shitty ass state. Liberal ass state. Pussy ass state. But I'm stuck here for a few, I would say half a year, so I'm gonna make the fucking best out of it. They do got some good fighters over here. I'm training at Wild Card. It's pretty cool, so get my boxing license, turn professional. Beat up all some goddamn Mexicans or some shit. Go back to Florida. Fucking no state tax. But anyways, Poirier versus McGregor, man. I think this is a 50-50 matchup. I don't usually do MMA kind of analysis because I'm predominantly a boxer and a striker. But, you know, this is a fight with two. It seems like two guys are going to duke it out and throw hands. Obviously, you got the, you know, that calf kick was a motherfucker the last fight. I mean, I can pretty much get the gist of any form of striking just based off of boxing, because I think boxing is a good foundation in understanding any form of striking. You know what I'm saying? Distance, timing, rhythm. It just really gives you a good foundation and a knowledge and understanding of any form of striking. I think if you truly want to understand striking, you should start with boxing first. I do think, obviously, kickboxing and Muay Thai are probably second after that. But I think when you have so many different ways to strike, it kind of takes the focus off some of the critical foundations of striking, you know, because you got to think about it. It's all about repetition, and repetition takes time and muscle memory, and that doesn't happen overnight. So you're dedicating a lot of time to throwing a lot of different techniques. It kind of takes you away from focusing on those key foundations of being a really good striker, like distance, timing, and rhythm. You'll see guys in Muay Thai and kickboxing that master those principles, but I think those are very high-level guys, and I don't think you find them. I think you can find a low-level boxer who understands that better than a high-level kickboxer. I'm not saying that low-level boxer, just because they have a better understanding of distance, timing, and rhythm and whatever, I'm not thinking about setting up shit, you know, strategically fighting through rounds, fighting on the inside, right? Those are advantages you learn in boxing. I'm not saying the boxer would beat a kickboxer, but I think that low-level boxer, professional boxer, will have a deeper understanding of that than, say, like most mid to high level kickboxers or Muay Thai fighters. For the most part, I think most Muay Thai and kickboxers would kick the shit out of a boxer in a matchup if they were just strictly using their own craft. But I'm digressing, man. That's the way my mind works. It's a roller coaster. It's just going wherever it wants to go. But look, this matchup, this is do or die. This is it for Conor McGregor, man. Honestly, it shouldn't even be do or die. He needs to be done after this. My man needs to be done after this. Dude, I don't want to remember McGregor for this shit, bro. Falling off, you know, getting knocked out and TKO'd and losing. I don't want to remember him for that shit, man. I want to remember for his fucking title wave into the UFC. This shit was fucking magical. And he's throwing it all out the drain. And I commend him to a certain degree. I like that. That's one thing I really love about him. He's a true champion in that he truly loves what he does. Is that he doesn't fucking quit after a loss. He comes back, man. He tries to reinvent himself. Unfortunately, I think the sport has evolved without him. And that's the scary thing about MMA. That's the tough thing about MMA, man. It's that the sport keeps on constantly evolving. And that's why we're a little bit more forgiving towards losses in MMA than boxing. Because, you know, if you're not keeping up with that shit, man, there's a new technique that comes out and it just flips everything upside down. It really does. And that's the motherfucker about MMA. And then, I mean, there's already so many different ways to lose. You know, like, think about boxing. It's hard to go undefeated in boxing because there's always some guy with one style that just fucks you up. And it's just one form of striking. Imagine you got all those different forms of striking and grappling and all those different ways to lose. It's just inevitable. You know, yeah, you got John Jones, but for me, you know, and Khabib's the exception because his grappling is off the fucking charts. And, you know, he's kind of developed some decent hands as well to kind of complement what he does best. It did John Jones to be, you know, I think he's great. I think he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. But I also think he hasn't really tested himself. And I know that sounds kind of fucked up in a sense because he's beat a lot of good fucking fighters. But I don't think he's really challenging himself. And I think I want to see him at heavyweight against Ngannou, guys like Stipe, and you know, the Black Beast, Derek Lewis or whatever. I want to see him up against guys his size because we all know John Jones truly is a heavyweight. He's been cutting down the light heavy. He's been fucking legends up. But, man, dude, he's such a gifted athlete, rangy, long, that I don't think he's really tested in himself. I really don't. And once again, I know he's beat some legends. I know. But he's not fighting at his true weight class, and I don't think he's truly tested himself. And look, when he's fought guys around his size like Alexander Gustafsson, he struggled. Now, I'll give him props. That second fight, he dominated, right? And he beat DC. DC's a motherfucker. I don't care what anybody says. DC, you might not like him, but he's a motherfucker. So I give him a lot of credit for those two guys. But we see them struggle against other guys around his size, have pretty subpar performances. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but when he gets guys around his range, you know, his range, he tends to struggle a little bit. He tends to struggle. Now, I think if he goes to heavyweight, you're going to get guys his size, even bigger, with power, who are skilled. And let's see what you can do against those guys. If you can beat guys like Derek Lewis, you beat fucking Ngannou or Stipe, all right, I will call you the greatest fucking fighter in the history of the world. If he can beat those guys, I'll give it to John Jones. But right now, I can't give him GOAT status. I can't. If anything, I like Khabib, but he got out early. And I don't think many guys can beat Khabib. I think Khabib can go up in weight, and he wouldn't have too much of an issue. Well, I'll say this. You get a really good striker who's bigger than Khabib, a lot more rangier and taller, it might give Khabib some problems. But that motherfucker gets you in his clamp, you ain't getting out. It's like a fucking bear trap, bro. So, you know, for McGregor, it's hard to go undefeated in MMA. There's those two exceptions. But, you know, McGregor, I don't want to see him go out like this, man. I think this fight's going to be tough for him. I think this is going to be very, very, very hard to win this fight. And if he does win it, I hope he gets the fuck out, man. Retire. Let us remember you for something great. What else is there left for you to do in mixed martial arts? Seriously. Especially with the evolution of the sport's constantly evolving. You know, you saw the calf kick. That was getting introduced while he was boxing. He was just gone on a boxing just for like like half a year, and the sport transformed, came with this new calf kick, and it fucked him up against the guy that he beat decisively. And then he got beaten by Dustin Poirier the second fight decisively. And Dustin Poirier is not even like Khabib in terms of grappling. You know, he got beat by a striker predominantly. And that is your bread and butter. If you're not even winning on that front, then dude, like, what are you doing? So I really hope he gets out. I know it's intoxicating, man. He did some shit. He was on top of the UFC. You know, Mystic Mac fucking coming with a country behind him. It was extraordinary. It was fun to watch. It was exciting. And look, this is a good last fight for him. I would like it to be his last fight. There's only 2 more fights I'd be like, all right, fine. One more against Nate Diaz, just because I think you gotta settle the score, right? I think it's 1-1, if I'm not mistaken. So fine, that's a fight that's fairly evenly matched, and I think he could win. And then there's the fight with Jake Paul. I think that, yeah, I mean, I know Conor McGregor is kind of like looking past it, like, oh, I'm not fucking with Jake Paul. He's fucking YouTube. Dude, that's a payday. That's a easy, well, I want to say easy, right? I want to say easy, but it's a big payday. Probably compared to the UFC, it's a big payday. And, you know, even with that, that's a dangerous fucking fight. That's a risky fight because seeing what McGregor did against Mayweather, I don't know if he could even beat Jake Paul. Now that fight's gonna be high. The possibility of Jake Paul McGregor is gonna be highly dependent on what happens with Tyron Woodley, Jake Paul. This whole YouTube boxing shit could really go down the fucking drain if Jake Paul doesn't fucking save it. Right now, I respect Jake Paul and his brother. But mostly Jake Paul because he seems like he's a true student of the game of boxing. It seems like, you know, he takes it seriously. He studies it. He's shown a lot of potential. He has the gift of power. Now, that don't mean shit, right? There's a lot of guys who got big punches but never really take it to the highest level. But, you know, that's a very good attribute to have. And I think that if Jake Paul continues to develop, if he can win convincingly against Tyron Woodley, and even if he loses, but it gets to the scorecard, and he puts on a decent performance, it can still save the fight for McGregor, right? But if it's a shit show, nobody's going to want to see these fucking freak shows anymore, because I think the Logan Paul Mayweather fight was kind of disappointing. And, you know, I don't see this whole YouTube wave lasting too long if Jake Paul doesn't fucking hold it down for the squad. But that's the only 2 fights I can see for Conor McGregor, like, that makes sense after this. Other than that, what are you trying to do? You won your title, man. You won in 2 divisions. You've been falling off. You've been taking a lot of punishment. You might even be chinny at this point. So, honestly, if he wins this fight in a spectacular fashion, I would get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Maybe a trilogy against Nate Diaz. That makes sense to me because it's a good matchup, and I think he could win. But even with that, you know, what is the point of that fight? Just a payday, pretty much. Just a payday, and just basking in the glory for a little bit longer. But I mean, I don't see any easy fights for him. Even if he's facing strikers, I think, you know, shit, Max Holloway might give him a fucking hell of a time. And who has he really beat? What, Cowboy Cerrone? Like, look, I know people love Cowboy Cerrone. Yeehaw, he's fucking, you know, a man's man. He's a cool dude. But Cowboy Cerrone is a gatekeeper, all right? He's not on that fucking super status, you know, top-notch fighter. Like, he's a gatekeeper, all right? That's what he is. That's what he'll always be. Nothing more, nothing less. So I wasn't really impressed by that fucking win. And Cowboy seems to freeze up when he gets in really big fights. So, I mean, where does he go from here, man? Where does he fucking go? I mean, even with, in terms of striking, facing guys who aren't predominantly grapplers, I don't see him beating any good UFC strikers. I see him having a very hard time. His technique doesn't look the same. He looks a little bit chinny, and he's probably is because he's taken so much punishment. I mean, the beginning of the end started with that first Nate Diaz loss, even though he kind of got redemption. That was still a very close fight. Then he goes in with Mayweather. You know, he takes a lot of punishment. I know a lot of people don't think Mayweather punches hard. No, he doesn't throw fucking bricks, right? But that's when fighters really get fucked up. Like, long-term brain damage is when, like, they're fatigued and they're getting bopped upside their head constantly. Sometimes it's better just to get knocked the fuck out, because some of the most horrific brain trauma result, or even death in boxing, has came from guys, you know, continuing the fight while they're fatigued. And, you know, look at Gerald McClellan, you know, even though he probably deserved it because he was a piece of shit and he was abusing animals. You know, that fight was a perfect example of a guy who was taking punishment while he was completely fatigued. I think Pritchard Cologne or something like that, once again, died, or he's a vegetable now. Yeah, so, yeah, McGregor may be chinny. Then he went in against Khabib, got smashed. Then he went up against Dustin Poirier, got smashed. So, and even in that fight, or after that Mayweather fight, his hands never looked the same. His hands never looked the same. And I know he did hurt Dustin Poirier in the second fight, but his hand, he just doesn't look as sharp. And he was been focused on boxing before that Dustin Poirier fight. And it took away from his other striking techniques, like his leg kicks or you know, his head kicks. So, yeah, man, I think this is a 50-50 pick 'em. And you know what? I hate to pick against him, but I'm going Dustin Poirier, man. I think Dustin Poirier, man, he's one of those dudes, he just stays the same. He's consistent. And, you know, he's never going to be, like, superstar status like what you saw with McGregor, right? Because McGregor's like a tornado. Just, it's amazing to see a fucking tornado and the fucking chaos that ensues, but it only lasts like seconds, right? Minutes. You look at, but then you got guys like that are hurricanes. And I think, you know, Conor McGregor, his style and the way he fights and the way he's built, it's like Mike Tyson in a sense. You know, Mike Tyson was not built to fight for, you know, 20 years like fucking Mayweather or something, right? Mayweather or Bernard Hopkins, they both had very efficient styles that were meant to last long, be durable. You know, Mike Tyson was a fucking tornado. Not the most efficient style, lots of head movement, lots of footwork, you know. not very efficient, but fucking amazing to watch the destruction and the devastation that ensues from the way they fought in their prime. And I think McGregor's the same way. He's not built to last long, man, and I just wish he would get the fuck out. And I hope he gets out if he wins this, especially wins in spectacular fashion. Just get out, man. Just get out. Fine, you want to do Nate Diaz, maybe that, but after that, get the fuck out. You have no business facing Khabib. Don't pull that motherfucker out of retirement, because he might just come back to fuck you up one more time. You know, and Khabib, you ain't beating that dude, McGregor. And I respect McGregor. He has the fighter's mentality, and that's the true mark of a champion, somebody who isn't afraid of a challenge and who tries to find redemption. But, man, just speaking from, like, a spectator perspective, it's not. If he takes that fight, he's going to get fucked up. And it's going to be embarrassing. But, you know, I could be wrong, man. You know, I could be wrong. But I see this fight possibly being very similar to the second fight. You know, even though I think McGregor's going to come a lot more prepared. You know, actually, I'll say this. I think this fight could potentially go the distance. I can see that. I can see it being a scrap, too. Here's the thing. Is McGregor's legs healed up? Are they properly healed up? Because, man, I speaking from somebody who used to play Division I college football, I got a lot of knee injuries and leg injuries. And even when I recovered from them, I was never the same. And there would always be something to re-aggravate those injuries. And I can't imagine being in UFC where you got a motherfucker kicking at your legs after you having those injuries. So, I mean, that could be a big factor. Does Poirier go in there and he starts lighting his legs up again, unless he checks him very well? Does he start lighting up his legs again? And does that maybe re-aggravate an injury? And once you lose that base, that foundation, once you lose your legs, man, you're nothing in there. You're nothing, because that's your everything. That's your foundation. If you don't have your foundation, you're building a house on cards. It's like no good. So I kind of see Poirier kind of implementing the same game plan. I'm sure he's going to have something extra to throw in there or an adjustment. And I'm sure McGregor's going to try to utilize his own kicks. But I think Poirier's one of those dudes. He just stays steady. He's gonna be in the game for a while. You know, he's not gonna be this big personality, but he's a dude that stays consistent, and he's great. You know, and he learns from his losses, and he gets better, and he sticks with it, and you know, he becomes a champion. And that's Poirier for you. And you see that all across different professional sports. You see it in basketball. You see it in football. I've seen so many quarterbacks. You know, no, they're not big marquee names. But, you know, they just stick with it. And they just get better and better, low-key. Like, I would say Dustin Poirier is like a Kurt Warner, right? Kurt Warner of NFL. Kurt Warner, you know, he kind of came up the hard way, man. Played Canadian football, you know, kind of had to earn his way up the roster, got an opportunity, you know, and he started to prove himself, and you know, eventually winning a Super Bowl, and he just stuck with it. He stuck with it, and he continued to get better and better and better and better, and even as he aged, you know, and that's Dustin Poirier. Or like you think of Ray Allen in the NBA. Like Ray Allen's never going to be like a marquee name like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or like even like a Dwayne Wade. But the reason why fucking Ray Allen has, I mean, he's won what, multiple championships if I'm not mistaken. He's won with Boston, won with Miami. But he just stays low-key. He's consistent. He plays his role. He doesn't get out of line, out of character, out of place. And, you know, he played for a long time, and he outlasted a lot of marquee guys or big-name guys, and even guys who haven't won championships. I think Chris Paul's another example, and he may win his first NBA title here soon. You know, Chris Paul, he kind of just stays consistent, low-key, and hopefully I would love to see Chris Paul win his first NBA title, but that's Dustin Poirier, man. He's consistent, he stays the same, and he just gets better slowly,
You know, he's never going to be a big marquee name, but, you know, he's a champion. He's a fucking champion. And I think that at the end of the day, the beginning of the end for McGregor started with his first loss. Or not his first loss, but his loss to Nate Diaz. And then losing to Mayweather. And then losing to Khabib. And then losing to Dustin Poirier. That's 4 fucking losses, man. And I want to see him win, but I don't think he's going to win. You know, I want to see him win. He can win. He can. I'm not saying he can't, but I give it to the guy who's been staying steady, working at his craft. You know, I think that the sport constantly evolving, he fell behind. And that's how fast it's evolving, man. That's what's scary about MMA. It evolves. It's evolving quickly. You know, y'all think I'm playing, but we're going to see some Mortal Kombat shit, Street Fighter shit. We already have, right? With these fucking spinning back kicks and shit. People jumping off fucking cages and striking. And, you know, we're already seeing it. You look at guys like Adesanya and fucking, you know, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You know, these guys are, it's crazy. And you look at it from where it started to where it was just basically 2 guys at a bar fighting. Now it's getting sophisticated. It's getting scary, technical, and skilled. And, you know, sooner or later, we're going to see, this is literally going to be true mixed martial arts to where we're seeing motherfuckers, you know, performing Mortal Kombat. It's going to look like a video game. I guarantee you. Because that's how much it's evolving and getting sophisticated. So, you know, and I think just taking that little time off to go box with Mayweather, that really pulled him behind. And then the punishment he's been taking, and then just the matchups he has aren't favorable, even in terms of striking. Like Max Holloway, he beat Max Holloway the first time. I don't know if he beats Max Holloway again. Once again, Max Holloway, he falls in that same category to me. You know, slow and steady wins the race, baby. So, it's going to be exciting, man. I'm looking forward to it. I don't really know what the undercard fights are, but maybe there'll be a good one or two and a few fighters I recognize. Like I said, I'm not an MMA aficionado, but I pay attention, and I'm pretty well-versed in understanding striking. So, look, man, get at me. Tell me what you think. Please like. Please don't thumbs down, man. Don't be negative. Don't be bringing negative vibes to this shit unless I'm doing something completely flagrant. Subscribe if you can, man. I'm a young up-and-coming fighter trying to make a name for myself, build a channel, talk about fighting, because I love to talk about fighting, boxing, MMA. I love to share my thoughts, and I love to hear y'all thoughts. So tell me who you think's gonna win. Share your opinions after the fight. Get at me. It's your boy HB. Final round. Subscribe below.